Greetings all, and welcome to lucasprues. And the day has finally come. I have finally gotten a hold of a Airfix Bf F-4, their brand new 1/72nd scale starter set, which is nearly impossible to do in Australia. And today we're going to be continuing the 109 72nd scale series by having a look at what's in the box. So originally I was hoping to pick up one of these kits from a Aussie hobby shop, but as of the current time when making this video, I haven't been able to find them available in Australia yet. So I was very lucky. A friend of mine went to the UK recently and brought me one of these back to have a look at and compare it to the other 109s. So we'll start off by having a look at the box, and as you can see, it's in the slightly newer Airfix starter set box with the large tab at the top here. On the front of the box we've got some nice artwork of, looks like two 109s flying over a field, and you can see there's some burning T-34s. They look like the 85 model, which would probably be a little bit rare for the Bf-109F to run into, seeing as they were from early 1941 and the 85 version of the T-34 didn't really appear until 1943, but apart from that, pretty nice looking box art. And we've got a little render of the model with the black stand that I believe are the newer Airfix style ones, and then we've just got the titles. At the top here, got a little bit of history about the Bf-109F series, and we've got a nice little artistic picture of the scheme that's included in this kit, and a little warning that contents may vary from those illustrated, and additional parts may be required to complete to a higher specification. Which is an interesting disclaimer, I think, for a model kit to have on it. But anyways, on the back here we've got, as usual with the starter series for Airfix, the scheme or the decal guide. And as you can see, it's a very simple for a German aircraft. It's basically just the RLM 65 underside, and I think that's supposed to be RLM 70 on the upper surface. Although the painting guide here is in Humbrol, so it looks like you've got four main colours: the blue, the dark green, looks like some sort of grey, and then black. Pretty simple with decals. It's just the common stencils there with a few little kill markings and the squadron symbol, and I believe these yellow bands would come as decals. So that's pretty much it for the box. I'll open it up and we'll have a look at what you get inside. Being a starter set, you get some of the little Humbrol pots, along with a little bit of poly cement. I'll have a look at these paints later to see how they've fared. Sometimes they don't end up too good. Then we've got a little sheet of paper here talking about some of the very basics of model making, which is pretty cool. Talking a bit about washing parts in soapy water to get all the oil and residue off. Bit of a guide on how to find parts on the sprues, which is good for beginners. Some advice on removing it, and yeah, how to fill and clean off rough edges, how to drill out holes. A little bit about using tweezers, test fitting of parts, not using too much glue, using some masking tape or some pegs to hold parts in place, give the paint a good stir, paint small parts on the sprue, allow time to dry, and a little bit of a guide on how to apply the decals. So that's pretty nice that they've included it for beginners. We've also got a brush that comes with the paints and the glues, and it's a nice little Humbrol one, which is cool. Here we've got the instructions, which was what we'll have a look at in a moment, and here are all the parts, which come in one plastic bag. It looks like there's a second bag in there for the clear parts, so we'll have a look at those in a second. The instructions are here. They're in the, looks like a booklet format, which I'm very pleased with. That's very nice that they've done it. On the front, as is typical with Airfix, we've got a little guide, or a little bit more detail here on the history of the 109F, which I think is pretty cool that they've included it. Some of the specifications about speed, range, and the size of the aircraft. Then we've got a lot of warnings, a few little things about the manufacturer and that, Hornby Hobbies. Then if you open it up, we've actually got a little sprue guide here, along with some assembly instructions in English. So here you can see we've got basically three sets of grey plastic sprue and then one clear one. Plus you've got the decals here, and a little bit of advice on removing the little pin marks on some things. So assembly begins as normal with the interior, and as you can see you've got a cockpit floor and a pilot, which you paint and then glue together. Looks like there's a bit of sidewall detailing, and then you've got the tail wheel to install along with the cockpit to the fuselage sides. Doesn't look like you've got an instrument panel. You've just got, looks like, the floor, the sides, and there's no joystick or anything in this picture, but we'll have a look at that when we look at the actual parts. I like that they've included a little guide on which parts you want on the sprue, with the darker colour signifying the ones that you're wanting to cut off. And it looks like as you go along, the bits that you've already removed are not on the sprues, so that's pretty cool that they've included that, very helpful. Before you glue the fuselage halves together, you've also got the exhausts, which are moulded as a single piece, and there's a little arrow denoting which way it should go in. After that, looks like you've got the wings here, so you've got two halves for the wings, which you join together, then you join it to the fuselage halves. Then you've got elevators, which come as a single piece that you glue to the back there. Two parts for the air intake for the supercharger, which then goes on the side of the aircraft there. Then we've got all of the radiators and the air intakes, so there's one underneath the front of the engine cowling there, and then the two ones on the wings there that you glue into place. Looks like they slot in quite nicely with some large square pegs. Then on the underside here, we've got the landing gear, which comes as two pieces. You've got a wheel and then the strut, which is moulded to the landing gear flap. Then you're gluing them into the wings there. Or you have, looks like, different option parts for the landing gear to be retracted, which is cool. And earlier on you saw we've got the tail wheel, can either be glued in the down or the retracted position, which is cool. Then you've got the propeller, which comes with, looks like a little piece at the back there for the spinner, and a small part that attaches to the engine cowling. Then you've got the base of the propeller blades, and the front cover for the cowling there, which yeah, looks pretty standard. Clear part, which is a single piece for the canopy, so unfortunately you can't open the canopy up, which is a bit of a shame, but oh well. We've seen that's pretty common on a lot of other 109 kits in this scale. Then you've got the little radio antenna at the back there, then you glue that into place. Looks like you've got a optional stand, which is sort of in the shape of the 109, so it's like a shadow stand, which is pretty cool. Then it says add decals at this stage and see rear of package for positions, so that's referring to the marking guide on the back of the box there, which is what you use for that. So yeah, assembly is pretty simple, pretty similar to most other Airfix kits. Not sure if we've got an instrument panel, which is a bit of a shame, I think. But we'll have a look now at the plastic parts and see what the level of detail is on those. So as I've mentioned, they all come in a single bag here, which we'll open up. Now, unlike a lot of other Airfix sprues, these ones don't seem to encase everything. There's a few bits that are sort of hanging out. Like usually you'd have a full frame, but there's quite a few parts that don't look as protected as normal, but that's alright. We'll start off by having a look at this one, which is frame A, which is quite nicely denoted. And as you can see, we've got the fuselage halves, and I'll bring it nice and close. As you can see, they've done a really nice job doing the details on the exterior. You can see they've done recessed panel lines and recessed details for all of the various access hatches. Nice job doing the little clips for opening up the engine cowling and the machine guns. Yeah, they've done a bit of a basic sort of divot for the machine guns, but there's no real barrel or any details there. And it looks like they've moulded part of the armoured headrest to the fuselage, which I'm not a huge fan of. I know Revell did that, but it's lowers the detail a little bit, makes it a bit harder to mould, but it simplifies it by reducing the part count by 1, I suppose. Otherwise, details look quite nice. A little bit of raised detailing for the, I believe that's where the controls would, or the control wiring would come out. But yeah, otherwise looking pretty good. Here we've got some parts for the spinner and the propeller assembly, which look quite nice. They've drilled out a hole for the barrel, which is completely through the entire part, so that's looking pretty good. We've got a very nicely moulded looking pilot there. His details look pretty nice. You can see he's got some very nice seat belts on, and he's in quite a nice natural pose for sitting in a 109 cockpit. You'd sit very flat with your legs like that and very low. But yeah, it looks like he's a little bit, I don't know, something about him that looks a tiny bit strange, but otherwise he looks alright. The propeller there, quite nice and cleanly moulded. There's not an awful lot of flash, I should say, on any of the parts there, and the propeller is no exception, which is good. Here we've got the cockpit floor. As you can see, they've done the rudder pedals, the cover for the cannon barrel there, a little bit of detailing on the floor, and they've done a nice job of the bucket seating and the armoured panel for the pilot there. Exhausts, pretty basic. They've done them as single piece. As you can see on one side, they've done the extra little flame dampener cover, but they've moulded all the exhausts in place. They're not drilled out, so they're pretty basic, but still serviceable. And here we have the other fuselage half, and as you can see, the only difference between this and the other one is they've got a little hole there for the supercharger intake. Otherwise, doesn't appear to be too many imperfections or anything like that. Here we've got the rudder, or the full tail is on this half, and you can see they've done a little bit of a raised and sunken kind of fabric texture, which, yeah, it's pretty subtle, but it doesn't look too bad at all. And it's on the other side there with the rudder. And yeah, looks like it's more recessed panel lines and a few little rivet details on the top of the tail there. So otherwise, not looking too bad. On the inside of the fuselage, as you can see, we've got some pretty basic detail. We've got the throttle quadrant, the trim wheel, and some of the engine controls moulded to the side, along with a little bit of panel lining, which is all raised details. And on the other side here, we've got the oxygen system and a bit of wiring moulded in, along with the fuses, which are quite nicely done there. They're all raised details, and a little sunken detail for the map holder, or the bit of storage there, I believe. So yeah, it doesn't look too bad. And you can see here we've got the optional positions for the tail wheel to either be retracted partially or extended, which is quite nice. But that's pretty much it. Got the radio antenna there, which is quite cleanly moulded, which looks good. So that's pretty much it for frame A. Here we've got frame B, which is the wing halves. So yeah, starting with the upper surface, as you can see, again, it's all recessed details. Done a little bit of fabric texturing on the aileron there, which is pretty subtle, but not too bad. Got your nav light, got your little slat at the front there. Access for the fuel, which, yeah, looks pretty good, all in the correct place. And all moulded as one single piece. On the underside, again, a little bit of fabric detailing, and it looks like they've done some very subtle raised details for the inside of the landing wheel bays. As for the lower part of the wing, they've done the rivet detailing. Reminds me a lot of the Zvezda Bf-109F, with the upper surface not having a lot of rivet lines or anything, but the underside being festooned with them, which I think is a little bit of an odd choice, but oh well, it doesn't look too bad. And yeah, you can see all the access hatches, they look pretty good. And they've got a little bit of internal detailing for the wheel well there as well, moulded into the underside, and a little bit of a vent there. So yeah, details are looking really quite nice. Here we've got, looks like part of the stand for the aircraft, which is cool. Then we've got one more sprue here, which is sprue C in the dark plastic. On this sprue, we get a lot of the smaller parts. So we've got the elevators all moulded as a single piece. Very nicely done fabric detailing on these ones. They look a little bit stronger than the other parts. And yeah, recessed lines for the elevator and the horizontal stabilizer, along with a little bit of riveting detailing there, which looks quite nice. Same on the other side here, and as you can see, they're pretty much identical. Here we've got the landing gear, so you can see they've done a really nicely job doing the hubs and the tyre detailing, which looks good. Got the air intake here for the supercharger, which, as you can see, there's not much flash on that at all. Very nice and cleanly moulded, so that should go together quite well. Tail wheel, which is quite long there, which allows it to be inserted into the fuselage in either the extended or retracted position. Looks like they've done some nice job detailing the strut there and the hub and the tyre there, which should be nice. Here we've got both the retracted landing gear option with a little bit of the tyre detail moulded, and then you basically just glue that to the underside of the wing. Or you have the landing gear flap, which has the strut moulded into it. Looks like there's a really small point of contact for the tyres there, so that might be a little bit fragile, but it otherwise looks like really quite solid landing gear. Might need a little bit of a clean up there because the ejector pin mark is quite large, or the ejector cap there. Otherwise, details look pretty good. Got a little air intake here for the underside of the front engine cowling. No detailing for the radiator or anything. It's sort of just a very basic shape, but otherwise not too bad. Same story by the looks of things with the main radiators for the wings. You can see they've done a little bit of recessed detailing for the flaps and a few little access holes and that, but there's no real detail for the inside of the radiators there, which is a bit of a shame, but you probably won't see too much of that anyways. Moving on, we have the last sprue here, which is sprue number D, or letter D, and it contains the single clear part, which is the canopy. Again, it's molded as one piece, which I think is a little bit of a shame because that means you can't easily have it in the open position. But given the lack of instrument panel or joystick or anything like that for the cockpit, which I think is a bit odd, it doesn't probably matter so much. You're probably going to want to hide that. But yeah, as you can see, quality is quite nice. If I put my finger under there, the distortion is very limited. There doesn't appear to be any scratches or imperfections in the clear parts there, and they've done a nice job doing some raised framework for the edges of the canopy, so that should be pretty easy to paint and mask up. And yeah, it looks like the early 109 with the extra window on the side there, and they've molded one of the little air intakes or vents there, which look quite nice. And they've done a nice thickness on the armoured glass at the front there. So yeah, clear parts look really quite excellent. Last thing we've got to look at here that it's included is the decals. They're printed by Cartograph, so they should be quite nice quality. I don't know why they've bothered with these little markings showing the direction to apply the rear band on the fuselage, but for some reason they thought it was necessary to add notes there. Probably going to just paint the yellow on. I think that's, although yellow is a bit of an annoying colour to paint with, I reckon I'll have a better result with painting rather than trying to get this to conform to all the lumps and bumps on the underside of the wing and still look decent. But yeah, otherwise stencils should be quite nice. One last thing I'll do is I'll have a little look at the paints to see what kind of condition they are in. I've gotten a few starter sets over the years before, and sometimes these paints are already dry when you get them, which is a bit of a pain. Although I probably won't be using these little tubs. I tend to use the AK Interactive paints for German colours, and then either Tamiya or Vallejo for all the kind of more generic colours. But it is nice that they include these. If you're just getting into the hobby, you've got everything you need really to get started. You can break these parts off, and as long as you've got a nail file somewhere, you can clean them up. And then you've got the basic paints. So we've got 31 here, which is a sort of light grey. I'm guessing it's like an equivalent to RLM4. And as you can see, the paint is nice and wet in there, so that's pretty good. This one's unmarked, but I'm assuming it is the number 33, which is black. And again, nice and wet, so that'll be usable. Here we've got number 65, which is the Humbrol equivalent to RLM 65, the light blue. Again, nice and liquid, which is good. And finally we've got 91, which I believe is the equivalent to RLM 70 with Humbrol. Yeah, that's sort of dark green, and yeah, look at that. All nice and liquid, so that's really good. Especially considering that this thing's come over from the UK, so the paints have survived the trip, which is good. So hopefully when you get these kits, the paints will all be like that. And yeah, you got a really nice number 2 Humbrol brush. I really like the Humbrol brushes. I think they're of really good quality, and that's a pretty good size for spreading out paint without getting too many marks, especially if you thin it down with a bit of water. So looks like you're pretty well set to build a kit if you don't have a setup already. I'm not sure how I'm going to do this, whether I'll try and do it out of the box just as it is with these paints, or if I'll give it a proper paint with the stuff that I've got. Maybe I'll do a vote or something like that. So I think it's pretty awesome that Airfix have brought back a BF109F into their range in 72nd scale. There hasn't really been too many options. The best ones have been the AZ models, in my opinion. And then the Zvezda kit, which is a sort of snap fit kit, which goes together really excellently and is very nicely detailed. I think it's probably one of the best 109 kits on the market. Compared to those ones, the Airfix one is definitely a lot more basic, and I think they're really aiming for more the starter series, which is kind of what everyone expected once this one was released. But a lot of people are, I believe, hoping that Airfix will later on release a proper, more detailed version that's not aimed at beginners. I think it's a bit odd that they've done it this way, because frankly it's probably just as difficult to build this kit as it would a generic Airfix Spitfire. Or even their other 109E series. It looks like the part count is pretty similar. The only thing they've really done is sacrificed an instrument panel, a joystick, and a few other little details here and there, which, frankly, I don't think that's too much of a challenge for a beginner to tackle, so it seems a bit odd to me that they've excluded it and made their kit less detailed as a result. But if you're a beginner, it does look like a really simple kit. I think they've really done a nice job making the instructions better and more beginner friendly. And it's cool that you've got the paints and that to start off with, and they looking to be of good quality. So if you're a beginner, definitely recommend this set. I'll have a look at the prices when it comes out in Australia. It's probably going to be a little bit on the pricey side, knowing Airfix. But honestly, though, yeah, for $20-$30, not a bad little starter set at all. Thank you very much for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it. If you did, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. A big shout out, as always, to my wonderful patrons for helping me fund buying the various supplies I use. And a big thank you to my friend Riles for buying this kit for me to have a review, and I'll be doing a build video on it pretty soon. It's probably not going to take me too long. It's a pretty simple looking kit. I've just kind of got to decide, as I've mentioned, whether I'll be doing it out of the box or if I will try and make a few little upgrades here and there. Plenty of other projects and other kits in the works, so stay tuned for more updates on those. And of course, the big project Milne Bay, which I'll have some news for pretty soon. Anyways, thanks again, and until the next video, take care and model on.